Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Talk with Tara. I'm Tara, and everything I do is to empower other people to connect to reach their full potential and to step into their extraordinary life. I am super excited because today's Coffee Talk is a little bit different. I have Fazeena Haniff here with me, the Conscious Communicator, and we're going to be doing a little bit of an interview. Hi.
Hey, Tara. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
It's my pleasure.
Super excited. So I think just to start, a lot of what I talk about is mindset and communication. So it's a really great fit that you, the Conscious Communicator, are here with us today. So hoping that you can give the audience a bit of your background. How did you kind of get into this? And then we can go from there.
Yeah, so communication's been something that I've been passionate about pretty much all my life, even as a child. I found it very easily to connect with people that were much older than me or from different walks of life. And I made a decision fairly early on in high school that I wanted to have a career in communications, so public relations, corporate communications. And so I just plotted my path forward and got a degree in communications and economics, and then went on to further my studies in postgrad with corporate communications. And then went on to do an internship at a municipality, and then I worked for the province for a number of years, almost 8 years, I'd say. So I've had an awesome career in communication. And then in 2015, I felt like I kind of fizzled out where I was, and there was something more that I wanted, and I wasn't quite sure, and I don't think I was taking the signs very well, and so I got sort of pushed out the door. It was like, yeah, Fazeena, it's time to leave. I made a really tough decision to leave the organization I was with. It was an awesome organization with, a really solid pay and pension and all of that. And I took a leap of faith, and for a while didn't really know what I wanted to do. But then was also passionate about coaching, and for some reason I thought I needed to be 40 years in my career or something like that before anyone would listen to me. But then I thought, well, what the heck, let's do coaching now, and I married coaching with communication and created the Conscious Communicator, and that's where I am now.
Amazing. That's an amazing story. And I think that, having gone through something similar myself, there is a lot of value in just paying attention and bringing awareness and kind of watching those signs. So good on you.
Absolutely.
The faith. And I will say from my own experience as well, there is a period where after you do that, you have no idea what you want to do, where you want to go, or what's going to happen. But I think for a lot, that's kind of the most troubling space. But if you kind of just allow it to be, is what I say to people, it becomes clearer much, much, much quicker. So awesome. So can you tell me why you define it as conscious communication? What makes it, or what do you bring to the table that makes it the conscious level of communication?
Right. So in my career, I was a writer of words for the most part, and creating sentences and messaging and all of that to deliver communication on behalf of an organization, and it was all very formal and to the point. And what I realized that there was so much more to it. If we do the research, we'll actually learn that there's words account for as little as 7% of communication. And what do we spend most of our time on when we're thinking about communication? Words. But if it's only 7%, we're missing the whole 93% of what communication is all about. So the work that I do is really to help people understand what that 93% is about. So we've got 7% words and 93%, which comprises body language and the intonation of our voice. In addition to that, we've got a whole bunch of other things going on unconsciously that we don't realize that are feeding our words and our body language and voice. And those things include things like our emotions, they show up, our intentions, they show up, our values. How many of us know what our values are? They're showing up. And also our preferences. We all have a preference for how we give and receive communication. And if you don't know what
Right.
that is, it can make things really confusing. And the last part of that is our fears and our limiting beliefs. So those things that get in the way of us really showing up and being who we are, they're affecting the way we communicate. And for me, it's really helping people to understand how all those things mix together to make them the type of communicator they are, and then empower them so that they can make choices of how they want to change the way they show up so they can get the results they want.
So is this really just, it sounds like it's more outwardly communication, but there's also that communication with self. So
Absolutely.
As a conscious communicator, work on people in both areas, like communicating outwardly in an organization or relationship and with self?
Absolutely. So my belief is a foundation for excellent communication begins from the inside out. So when we understand ourselves and we have a great relationship with communication with ourselves, not only are we clearer on message, we show up more authentically, and we become much more powerful because we're in alignment. So that internal piece and being really clear with ourselves, when we communicate from that place, it just, like, the external communication flows really, really easily, and it connects with the people that you really want to connect with in a powerful way.
Awesome. So, sorry, I know that I have my own kind of daily routine to get my mindset, my intention, I think this is all what you're kind of pulling together in terms of communication. And I realized, again, I speak a lot about my own journey because it's something that I have to draw upon, but I realized that I used to speak really negatively about myself, and then moving forward, how that shifted and changed. So I have a bit of a routine. I have things that I go to on a daily basis, whether it be gratitude or journaling. I do write a lot. So it's really interesting for me that this is only 7% of communication, because I do spend, or words are 7%, because I spend a lot of time writing and being in that space. And it's something that I really like and I find very therapeutic. But what I'm trying to ask is, when you were journeying through all of this and you were pulling this together and really delving into the role of conscious communicator, what were some things that really helped you, or what are things that you do on a daily basis that help you stay within your own alignment in that place of being a good communicator for self?
Yeah, so awareness is key. It's the biggest piece. When we're aware of what the dialogue is in our head, is it pleasant or, is it beating us down? That's a really big one. And anytime I'm in an interaction, it's really checking in beforehand to say, okay, Fazeena, what's the state of my emotions? What's that talk like in my mind? Am I setting myself up for failure? Am I setting myself up for success? Because that's where the intention lies. Who am I speaking to? What's their preference for communication? What's mine? Are those needs being met? Are the values in alignment? So, what I'm talking about takes time to know yourself. But once you have that awareness in your day-to-day, it becomes really just very natural that you go into interactions and show up as a conscious communicator. But it's that level of awareness that's the key.
Absolutely. And I think people become really fearful. Some of the people that are around me and that I've worked with are really fearful to dive into that level of awareness.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty natural, because for a lot of years, me being in my late 30s, for many of those years, there was this kind of cloud and not really diving into it. And you just sort of went through your day-to-day life. So when you start to become more aware, it's on a broader perspective. It's not, I think, just on the words that you're saying to yourself. That is a really big part of it, but it also becomes so many more things and bigger things. And for people, it's really overwhelming. So I think it's great that you say that it takes some time, because it
absolutely.
And I think that's really great to acknowledge, because people think that we're in a society and of an age where we want everything instantaneously.
Yeah.
I do think, and perhaps you'd agree with me, that as you journey along and as you gain, you take those small steps to awareness, it does become a lot easier. So
Yes.
that you've been doing this for a couple of years and you've been checking in, I mean, just give people a perspective. When you're kind of checking in before a conversation, for example, is this a long time check-in? Is this like a quick, you can go into your own self because you know yourself and you trust yourself that much that is it quick? Is it lengthy? Is it like, do you meditate, for example, or are you just more of a go with the flow and ask the question and receive the answer? Like, how does that really work for you now?
Yeah, so it actually depends on the conversation.
That's true.
And yes, and whether I feel I really need some time to ground myself, if it's something that has been really emotional or controversial or whatever it might be a conflict. I'd want to take some more time to check in with myself and see how I'm doing and try to understand like what might be getting in the way, how I might be creating drama, and working on those things before I go in. But if it's just for example, if it's a prospect or someone that I'm meeting,
Right.
for the first time, maybe it really is just checking like, how am I doing? Like, what's my energy like today? And just being cognizant of how that's showing up. So it's a very quick thing. Depending on the conversation, it could be a longer thing. So a lot of times I'll write down my thoughts before. And I know you mentioned you do a lot of writing, and it's only 7%, but that's actually intentional writing, because you're really being intentional in terms of understanding where you are in that particular moment before you enter a conversation. So and then just maybe visualizing how I want a conversation to turn out, or an interaction to turn out is another thing that I do. So those would be mine. They'd be different for everyone because we all have different tools that we use to, clear our minds or connect within ourselves, and to get clear on what it is you want to do. So whatever it is that works for you is great. My aware before you're entering into anything.
Right. And what I think is really interesting about what you're saying right now is that you're using a lot of the, I'm going to say, tactics of law of attraction, or, the big picture things where we always talk about grounding, visualizing, setting intention. So these are sort of big buckets that I think when you start to work with them, they fit in all areas: communication,
Yes.
communication with self, manifesting, so what I'm finding really interesting actually is that your technique, and that what you're telling me and what works for you is really those bigger principles that everyone talks about, visualizing. I think, people, to me, I've had a lot of experience with clients and prospects come to me that are in transition. So in a similar place to where you and I were a couple of years ago, where we, left certain jobs, things happened to us, and then they said, what now? And so I always would say to them, if you continually tell yourself you don't know, you will continue to not know.
Yes.
But if you change the words to, I'm connecting the dots, pieces are falling into place, then it's really powerful. And the other thing that I encourage them to do is visualize. Is just, okay, so what would you do with your day? What would it look like? And I think that's really, really powerful. So for me, it's actually really cool to hear that you're using these sort of bigger, broader techniques in this more refined area, because I do think it really flows through all areas of our life. And people think that, again, we have the oneness, right? It's all connected. And so being the conscious communicator that you are, and me speaking to you right now, it's actually really an invigorating conversation for myself, because I'm starting to see a lot of that oneness come to play and how things connect together. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome. And I hope everyone that tunes in and that listens, that this resonates for you guys as well. So I want to ask you, maybe, can you share like one major tip? So for me, I'm always telling people, for example, that if you say you don't know, you're going to continue with I don't know. But if you change your words slightly, so is there one tip? If someone came to you and was like, oh, Fazeena, I don't know, what would be your first, okay, here's my tip, just do this? what would be one thing that you could recommend to everybody just to like start?
So I don't know if it's a tip so much as here's the thing. So many of us beat ourselves up about communication and we think we're bad communicators. You're not bad at communicating. You just don't fully understand it. So yes, stop beating yourself up. Stop with the negative talk. You don't suck at it. You just don't understand how intricate it is. So just educate yourself and learn more about the elements that really feed a good communicator. And you have all you already need within you to master the skill. So stop with the beating yourself up and just know that you've got it within you.
That is a great tip, actually. I had goosebumps while you were saying that because it's so true. I think we beat ourselves up about how people react, what we say. And so thank you so much for that. I mean, clearly it really resonated with me if I have goosebumps. And I think it's something really, really important there is that it's a skill.
Yeah.
And I think that what I have learned recently as well is that these are all skills that we're learning. Communication is a skill. And so you have to practice skills.
Yes.
I believe that appreciation is a skill and it's an art form to be able to appreciate in a certain way. You know, I have people come to me and say, oh, you know, I'm really good at starting projects. I'm not good at finishing them. And I'll be like, well, the great news is you're a big ideas person. And, you know, this is, and so I remember the girl looked at me and went, oh, it's the art of appreciating. It's the skill of looking for things to appreciate. So it's the skill of communicating. And you're right. You have to develop those skills. You have to practice those skills. And we do also live in a society where it's really hard to ask for help. So I'm really grateful that there are people like yourself, the Conscious Communicator, that's making this something more normal, something that's out there, and providing a resource for people to say, you know what, I need help communicating. Because once we learn the skill and we practice it, I'm sure you would agree, although I won't put words in your mouth, it does become a lot easier. Similar to once you practice awareness and you start kind of just allowing things to be with you, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that being said, what kind of do you do? Online courses, group courses? Like if people wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that? In what format would they do that? And how do you really work with that? Like,
yeah. So I do one-on-one work, which is the most powerful way to work together because we get results very quickly. We actually get to the root cause of what your communication challenges are, and we clear that so you can show up the way that you want to. And then we also, I also work in a group coach setting. If you know, there's a team, for example, that wants to get training, if there's a sales team or something like that. I do workshops as well, so we can tailor workshops based on your needs. And I do a lot of speaking as well. So that's kind of how that goes down. I'm hoping to do some more online things in the new year. So that's on schedule. I don't have anything concrete as yet, but that will be coming soon.
okay.
And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I mean, my website is a great resource. That's www.theconsciouscommunicator.ca. You can contact me through there, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Perfect. And I will, for anybody that's watching, I will link it anywhere that I'm posting as well so that you can connect with Fazeena and learn more about how you can hone the skill of conscious communication. So I'm going to say thank you guys all so much. And thank you so much, Fazeena. I really, really loved this conversation and this coffee talk. So thank you so much for your time and your expertise and just sharing so openly with all of us.
Thank you very much, Tara. It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.